We did a nice job. We got a little air conditioning, and it's a really exciting day. And thank you for all joining us for what's really a milestone event here at our court. We're here today because of the incredible partnership and collaboration that we have throughout this whole room. That's why we're all here today. I'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you. And as we know, we have many, many elected and appointed officials with us here today that advocate us across the region, locally, state, federal. And I want to recognize them first before we get started. Today we have with us Congresswoman Jackson Lee. Congresswoman Garcia. We have our court commissioners here today with us, Commissioner Dean Cordy, Clyde Fitzgerald, and Commissioner Cheryl Creuzot. And our Chairman Rick Campbell is here as well. He'll be addressing you shortly. We also have representatives from the state, State Representative Marion Perez, State Representative Christina Morales, State Representative Harold Dutton, State Representative Jarvis Johnson, Harris County Commissioner Adrian Garcia, a couple of our local mayors here close to Bayport, Mayor Seabrook, Tom Paluzzi, Mayor of Pasadena, Jeff Wagner, our Houston Vice Mayor Pro Tem Martha Castex-Tatum. We have our U.S. Coast Guard Captain of the Port, Pete Buttigieg. Our Maritime Director for the district, Brian Hill. Brian, there he is, right there. Representing Senator Ted Cruz, we have Kelly Workman. Representative Senator John Cornyn, Jan Guerrero. Representing Congressman Brian Babin, Will Carter. Representing Congresswoman Lizzie Fletcher, Spencer Gutierrez. Representing Congressman Wesley Hunt, we have Lisa Gilmore and Peyton Archie. And also, we have representing State Senator Carol Alvarado, Jacob Ayers Brisano. We have several members of our pilot board, our partners with the International Longshoremen Association as well. Not to mention that we're joined by some special guests from Washington here today, but we'll introduce them in a few minutes. Thank you for joining us here today to show us your support in Port Houston. And we're grateful for the advocacy of our channel. This is a great growing port, and there's a testament to that. Right on cue, we're going to have another ship come by here in just a minute. We didn't stage that, but we're just busy. And we'll have a ship coming in from one of our European services by here shortly. So with that, I'm going to now introduce our Port Commission Chairman, Rick Campbell.
Well, thank you, Roger. Good morning and welcome. What a great day this is today. Today's about celebrating great partnerships that have come together to bring this project to fruition. Thousands of people have collaborated on this project, all the way back from the grant writers to the construction crews, to security teams, back office folks, making sure that we stay on budget. Thank you, each and every one of you, for the hard work and determination in making this work a reality. We will be hearing from some people today, including some of our biggest champions from the halls of Congress. Congresswoman Jackson Lee, Congresswoman Garcia. Thank you for your undying support. You know and we know that this is about jobs, this is about creating benefits for our community, and we know you have our backs, and thank you. Absolutely. As we look out on the work behind me today, it doesn't seem that exciting. At first glance, it's a concrete slab, but in reality, it's really a whole lot more. First of all, does anyone know how difficult it is to build concrete over the ocean? I guarantee you, it's tough for our teams to know how hard it is, and we appreciate what they do every day. This wharf represents the future of our port. During the last 3 years, we've been on the front lines of the most challenging crisis that we faced in our time in the pandemic. It shifted supply chains and skyrocketed consumer demand for cargo, and we did what Port Houston does best: we delivered. Our team delivered every single day. When called upon, the men and women of this great port rose to the occasion and kept cargo moving. They worked tirelessly, even in this Texas heat. Thank you, Roger, for the air-conditioned tent, or the team that figured that out. But our teams are working in this Texas heat, and during the pandemic, they worked with masks and PPE to keep our homes and our stores shelves stocked with essential goods. Through the last 3 years, we've seen double-digit cargo growth year over year. Today, this wharf will enable Port Houston to keep up with the new growth in demand. This wharf will help reduce supply chain congestion, giving us additional capacity to berth another vessel around the clock. This wharf will help the port and our region ebb and flow through the demand of cargoes with imports and exporters. This wharf will provide the next generation of families by creating new jobs, sustaining existing jobs, and driving our overall regional prosperity. The additional capacity this new wharf will provide is what will keep us growing and leading the nation's cargo. Just a year ago, we have seen a growth of 12% in loaded export containers, which is a good sign for our regional economy and local producers. As the busiest waterway in the nation, we will see more cargo traversing this channel than any other U.S. port. And this comes with the responsibility of keeping and planning future growth and demand for our waterway. I'm proud to say, together as a team, we have over $1.4 billion worth of planned investments over the next 5 years. And we will need the help from everyone in this tent to bring those projects to life. These projects include various wharf and berth improvements, cargo staging yards, zero-emission trucks, charging infrastructure, additional terminal space, and of course our deepening and widening project for Houston Ship Channel, Project 11. I would like to specifically highlight Congresswoman Jackson Lee's and Congressman Wesley Hunt and Congressman Brian Babin. They have teamed up to include $55 million of community project requests in the upcoming Congressional Appropriations Bill. We need I'm going to add, we need $180 million still in federal support for the deepening and widening and finishing that. So we always say that too, so we need that money to come soon. And all that money is going to come to go from dredging the channel and keeping our ships from running aground, which is really a key part of moving cargo. I'd also like to acknowledge our state Texas representatives here today. These representatives, along with, have definitely helped secure additional funding for the courts. The state legislature appropriated $250 million for the courts this year. We really appreciate that and continuing support from the state. When you invest in Port Houston, you can be assured that we deliver. We're honored to have many stakeholders and partners with us today. Department of Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, thank you for being here. MARAD's Administrator Admiral Phillips, thank you for being here as well. Our friends from the Coast Guard, from the Army Corps of Engineers, CBP, and many more. Without all of us pulling together, this incredible operation would not be possible. Together we can do amazing things like what we're seeing here today. We recently released our new economic impact numbers for the Houston Ship Channel. The waterway generates over 3.4 million jobs in America, creates $906 billion of economic value. These real-life impacts, we're very proud of them, and it's all about this partnership that Roger talked about. We're also joined here by the ILA, the Houston Pilots, our stevedores, TLT, and HDL today. Great partners who keep our cargo moving on the water. I also want to acknowledge our commissioners. Thank you for being here. Commissioners do a great job in making sure that we're forward-looking and also that things happen and make things happen every single day. In closing, I'd just like to say that today is more than a ribbon cutting for a concrete port. It's a symbol of the future of Port Houston and all the lives that will impact the next generation. Thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you. Thank you.
I want to thank the pilots for setting that up. But it was not staged, but that right there is the reason why we need this bird to continue to grow, because I can tell you, I know what's going around the country. And in Houston, Texas, our container activity is, when I say only, this is a good thing, is only down 2% over historic demand for the last 2 years. And it's continuing to grow, and we're looking forward to allowing more cargo to come here. One representative that I didn't mention, also from Judge Lena Hidalgo's office, her representative, Deidre Fontaine. She's here with us today. Thank you for being here. Next, I want to introduce the company that is actually doing the construction, the project contractor with McCarthy Construction. If you want to come up, Mr. Fitz O'Donnell. He's a senior vice president and business unit leader who started this construction of this project more than 2 years ago. And it's coming to fruition, but I have to take 1 second. It started way before that by many on our team at the port. They're all sitting right back there with our infrastructure department, people engaged across the organization from operations and up and down the organization. So thank you all as well to make this happen.
Thank you, Mr. Gunther, and thank you to Secretary Pete Buttigieg for being here, and so many of our local elected leaders. Again, my name is Fitz O'Donnell. I'm with the Department of Building Companies, Senior Vice President, and just wanted to share what a privilege it's been to participate in such an important project here at the Port of Houston. Just a little bit of quick history. McCarthy started, it's been in continuous operation going back all the way to 1864 when a family of Irish immigrants started building barns up in the Midwest. It stayed that way for almost 150 years before selling the company to our employees and creating the 100% employee-owned company we are today. We started doing work for the Port of Houston, or then the Port of Houston Authority, almost 30 years ago. And over that time, we completed approximately 3 dozen projects across all the major terminals, including the Bayport terminal here. This is a really exciting time, not just for the port, but for our region and really across the country, whose prosperity is driven by the very economic impact that we see out here today. And as long as the port continues and we continue to invest in these critical infrastructure projects, it's really easy to see that the port continues to be a distribution hub for the next generation. So kudos to Mr. Gunther, Rich Burns, the Port Commission, the leadership of Chairman Campo for shaping the port's future. So thank you. I know we don't have a lot of time, but I do want to recognize a few individuals and groups that helped make this project happen. First, I just want to recognize our craft professionals, both McCarthy employees and our subcontract partners. These are the men and women out there in the heat, swinging hammers, driving pile, operating equipment, pulling wire. These are the people that really make this happen. So at peak, we have about 170 craft professionals, but on average, since the start of this project, we had a little over 100. So that's 100 families that were provided for by really good paying jobs. Not just getting the financial support, but every one of those craft professionals went home safely every day. Since the beginning of this project, we've allotted over 460,000 man-hours without an injury. So thank you to all our craft professionals and our we want to recognize a couple of our subcontract partners, HVAC, rebar reinforcement placers, Fiscal Electric, great partners. I also want to recognize a few of our minority and women-owned business partners, Jimmy and Amy, Primate Construction, KLP, Grammar Construction. Over the past 2 or 3 years, McCarthy has partnered with the Board's Business Equity Division to help recruit and train and develop some of our local partners, and we're starting to see some of the fruits of that labor here. So I appreciate the Board's Equity Division and supporting that. Designer, director, engineer, Jacobs, Jeff Eagle and his team, we work together on several projects, great collaborative partners, thank you. And lastly, most importantly, just across the board, all of the Port Houston staff, so many men and women throughout the organization, so many levels that Chairman Campo has come through and mentioned. Everyone from the inspection side, Chief Norman's team, John LeBeau, Jeff Scott, the operations and maintenance and longshoremen that work here at this facility. I know it's not easy having a gigantic construction project in the middle of an active terminal. I hope we've been good neighbors, but we appreciate all the collaboration and support for the logistics, all the utility and everything we do with on a big day. And lastly, just the Port's construction, engineering, and project management staff, Nick Posados, Craig Casper, Ross Talbot, Roger Ho. Couldn't have asked for more collaborative partners on this project. It's always been, hey, what's best for the project? It drives every decision that gets made, and through all the years, we've always appreciated that the Port truly treats us as partners. So it's a privilege to be a part of this project, and again, on behalf of the department, thank you for allowing us to participate.
Thank you, Fitz. I want to mention as well, we have another representative, the district director for State Senator Mays Middleton, Beverly Ferguson is here. So next I'd like to welcome to the stage Congresswoman Sylvia Garcia. She has been a longtime supporter of the Port in many ways, and much of the Port is in her district. So we're really proud and thank you for all of your efforts, and please come to your point.
Thank you. I thought the pilots were going to bring another ship for me, but I guess not. Isn't it great, big ship going by? You all may have seen containers, but I saw dollar signs, because that's what it represents. And I still remember when I had my first briefing from the Port when I was city controller, and you all know that was some time ago. And I recognized then, Roger, that this was truly the big economic engine for our region and our state and our country. And ever since then, I have been here for countless ribbon cuttings, watched the Port grow, and I can truly tell you that this is exactly the kind of infrastructure project that we thought about when we were voting on the infrastructure bill in Congress, that we knew this is a way to create jobs, to help communities grow, and to continue the economic vitality of our country. And for us, because we're so strategically located, also assist in our security. Because as you all know, I think we produce in our area about 40% of the jet fuel that's got to get somewhere, right? And it goes through here. So, Mr. Secretary, there's a lot of reasons for the investment here. And I want to first welcome you back to Houston and to Texas. It's been a delight working with you. And I'm so thrilled that we here are here today celebrating another milestone for the Port. I want to personally thank Roger, and I know that you've already introduced them, all the elected officials that are here. Because it's not just us bringing home the money. You know, I told the mayor when I was controller, I used to watch the money to make sure we would spend it wisely and effectively. bring home the money. So it's all about the money and the jobs. But it is working with our local officials, like the commissioner and the state representatives, all the mayors, working together is what makes it grow. And this court has always been able to bring us all together. And then when you talk about labor, you know, we all read the headlines sometimes when ports in the West Coast or the East Coast, up east, are having labor disputes. The docks closed. Ships can't come in. But have you ever seen that in Houston? No. Why? Because our friends in labor, ILA and seafarers and all the trades and all those groups that work with us are always there. They always step up. And they certainly did. They certainly did. And they certainly stepped up during the pandemic. They stood up, and I remember was it the Falcon Lord that we had to get some cargo through here because other ports couldn't take it. They always step up. So that's why these jobs are so important, and that's why this infrastructure bill is so important, because it helps the economy, but it creates jobs, and it creates good union jobs. So the Port of Houston has been here delivering for Texas, it's been delivering for the country, and it's been delivering for us. And I know as someone that represents about 80% of the ship channel, the headquarters are in my district. This is in Congressman Babbitt's district. But it's, again, it's all of us, because the ship channel is long. And we work hard together on issues like this to make sure that the port has the money that it needs, that we can deepen and widen and compete with any other port in the world. Because that's who we're competing with. Not just with LA, not just with Miami. We're competing with the world. And when it comes to the supply chain, you know what happened during the pandemic. We just started not getting goods. We know what happened for Christmas. All those ships didn't come in, and they weren't able to have things on the shelf. Mr. Secretary, it's about the money. I have a list here of the next project I want you to help fund for me. Always have a list. And thank you for what you've done for us. And thank you, too, for the dollars. Don't even remember, it's not just the port. I worked with him on dollars for Metro, those buses for clean air, the electric ones. We've worked together on projects for the airport. I mean, this secretary handles a lot of money in getting people to get around, to be able to get to work and play in church. So y'all be real nice to him, because I have a list and I want him to look at it more than once and continue to help us to bring home the money. Remember, it's not just about watching the money anymore, it's about bringing it home and making sure it gets to the ground, creates the jobs that are needed, and create the vital economy that we have to continue to grow. So thank you, Mr. Secretary, and thank you to everyone for being here today.
Thank you, Congresswoman. I want to mention one other. We've got a lot of people that are engaged in and around. We also have representing County Commissioner Leslie Briones. We have Aaron Mintzberg here as well. Yes, thank you for joining us. And I don't know if it's mentioned early, but thank the Secretary as well. Receiving these grants is helpful in us growing. And I don't know if it was mentioned, this port and our container operations has grown in 1 year from the 7th largest port in the country to the 5th largest port in the country, and continues to grow. So we're very thankful for putting these dollars to work. Next, I would like to introduce our Maritime Administrator, Admiral Ann Phillips. A little bit about Admiral Phillips. She was sworn in as the 20th Administrator for the Department Transportation Maritime Administration in May 16, 2022, and it's the first woman to lead MARAD. As the head of MARAD, Admiral Phillips advises and assists the Secretary of Transportation on commercial maritime matters to include the movement of goods, supply chain, as well as the U.S. maritime industry, environment and compliance, ports and waterways infrastructure, and strategic sea lift. She engages public and private stakeholders in the maritime industry, and she oversees the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy. Admiral Phillips served nearly 31 years as a surface warfare officer. Her final tour of duty as commander of the Expeditionary Strike Group 2 included the direct oversight of 14 ships and 10 subordinate commands. All the amphibious expeditionary forces on the East Coast of the United States. Earlier, she served as the Chief of Naval Operations Staff, as Deputy Director, and then Director of the Surface Warfare Division. Previous to those positions, she had the honor to commission and command the USS Mustin and to command Destroyer Squadron 28. Admiral, we thank you for your leadership at MARAD and look forward to our continued success together. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. Roger, thank you so much for that kind introduction. And before I begin, I'd like to quickly recognize and give a special thanks to Roger for his leadership here at Port Houston and for his service to the Maritime Administration's U.S. Maritime Transportation System National Advisory Committee, big long term, MISNAC is what we call it. Roger is a very ardent and supportive member of that, and we thank him for that. Secretary Buttigieg, sir, thank you to you and President Biden for your terrific leadership, particularly to help our country get through and past the pandemic-driven disruptions and to make our supply chains more resilient. Chairman Rick Campo, sir, distinguished guests, thank you all for being here today. I'm honored to be with you this morning to mark this significant milestone for the Port of Houston, for USDOT, and for MARAD. We relish the ability to actually be here to not only to provide funding for projects like this, but to see a project like the 4th-6 expansion here at Bayport Container Terminal come to fruition. And so we're thrilled to be here at this ribbon-cutting event. As has been mentioned, but I'm going to say it again here, the state of Texas has a long and rich history of supporting the maritime transportation system, and projects like this can only be completed with the support of the state, of Texas DOT, state, local, and regional elected officials, local authorities, local labor unions, and business organizations. Your focus on port infrastructure and commitment to the Maritime Administration's work here is vital to our national and economic security missions. I want to give a special thanks to Congresswoman Jackson Lee, ma'am, thank you, and Congresswoman Garcia, ma'am, thank you for being here today to celebrate this historic event. Also, speaking of historic moments, today marks the 233rd birthday of the U.S. Coast Guard. Happy Coast Guard Day! To all who are or have been affiliated with, I would say, my Navy sister maritime service, a particular here at Sector Houston Galveston, this is one of the most challenging sector commands in the Coast Guard. Congratulations to Captain Pete Buttigieg and Captain Nicole Rodriguez, Deputy Commander. You have quite a bit to do here. Much of this work cannot be done without you. And also a shout out to the Army Corps for their support for all of this work, and CBP, who are also here today. Thank you. With that historic context in mind, it's my great pleasure to highlight the ways in which the Biden administration, through the Department of Transportation and the Maritime Administration, has committed to ensuring the federal government does its part to continue to facilitate projects just like this one, essential infrastructure goals for this administration. I want to talk a little bit more about PIDP, Port Infrastructure Development Program, that we run in MARAD. That's a fun part of my job. I get to look at grants and look at opportunities to give people money to make differences in improving the movement of goods, strengthening port infrastructure to meet our nation's freight transportation needs now, today, and to ensure our infrastructure is ready to meet the needs of the future. This project in particular is grant 2019, and it's evident that Houston brought their A game. You were awarded $28.1 million for the Bayport Terminal. Congratulations to you. This facility embodies the spirit of innovation, collaboration, and progress. And this work demonstrates your priorities here in Port Houston to safely operate your waterways, expand economic opportunities and jobs, and enhance customer experience while reducing your environmental impacts. You can see the creation of the PIDP program as a whole in 2019 was a critical opportunity, but there's more to be done. So through President Biden's bipartisan infrastructure law, we are awarding $2.25 billion in PIDP grants over a 5-year period. First year was last year, second year will be this year. It's adding $450 million a year to that program over previous levels. This is historic funding that's allowing us to meet the moment of truly generational change for our nation's maritime industry and its infrastructure. In closing, I extend my heartfelt congratulations to Port Houston for your vision, your dedication, and your hard work to make this project a reality. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Next, I'd like to invite our Congresswoman Jackson Lee to come to the stage. She's going to provide some remarks as well as introduce our Secretary. So thank you, and while she's coming, I just want to thank her. She is a longtime supporter of the Port, in many, many different ways. Just recently on some community-directed funding requests here to help us with our channel projects, amongst others. So we appreciate your advocacy for our Port. Thank you for being here today.
I don't think you heard Roger when he said, we were 7, now we're 5. We're going to number 1. We have the best man in the room to help us get there. Secretary Buttigieg, it's a pleasure to be here with you today. And let me say happy, oh, there it is. Let me say happy birthday to the United States Coast Guard under our umbrella of the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. Let's give them a big rousing applause. Thank you to Army Corps and, of course, CBP for their work. And certainly it is a pleasure to be here, as my colleague said, to be here with all of our friends that are part of this effort. So let me tell you how special it is to work with Congresswoman Garcia. As she indicated, she represents a large part of this particular giant gym that we have here, and all of us, clearly, Congressman Babin and Fletcher, Hunt, we have worked together, and Congressman Green, on making sure that there is no divide when we fight for the Houston Port. Everybody should know that. So thank you all very much. Again, I'm excited to be here with Representatives Morales, Perez, and Johnson. They are a great team for the state. Let me tell you a little secret, $250 million, and we're going to be at that front door in Austin trying to drag that money down to Houston, Texas, so we can match the money that President Biden and our Secretary helped lead with us. I was one of the negotiators for that bipartisan infrastructure bill, over $1.2, $1.5 trillion. Let's give ourselves a very big hand. 1 point keeps going up in my mind. Thank you to our Vice Mayor Pro Tem of Houston and all of the mayors that are here, all the elected officials that are here, council members that work so hard, and Commissioner Garcia. We could not do this without the county commissioners, Judge Hidalgo, Ellis, Ramsey, and Brianis. Thank you all so very much for the work that you do. Thank you to the Port Commission, Corgi, Campo, and of course Truzo and others. We thank you very much. Let me just clearly say to you that we will not fail this great port. And I'm delighted to have a secretary that is a no-nonsense fighter for transportation across America. He is a can-do secretary, and I'm excited that he's here with us today. But just a moment to speak about this port, $906 billion in revenue, and the support system of our labor unions, who I want to give another rousing applause, because during the pandemic, they never stopped working. They made sure that whenever we could get off those ships, they were there to do so. I'm proud of the work that they've done and will always honor their service. I am grateful as well to the ongoing work that we've been able to do. For example, in 2023, we are working on my office with my colleague, $24.81 million granted for this Anton's Houston Ship Channel project. We're working and have worked on the RAISE project. We well know that Rick Campbell has no other vocabulary but $180 million for dredging, and obviously we have provided, way back in 2013, $30 million for dredging, which is 95% of what we requested during that year. But every single year, oh, you can applaud that because we got some dredging money then. We got $98.8 million allocation from the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. My point is that there has not been a fiscal year that we have not fought for appropriations for this port. I believe that we may be number 5, but we're going on to be number 1. Does anybody agree with me on that? Just 1 or 2 more points as I bring the Secretary up. It is important to note that we're 5th ranked U.S. container port by total of TEUs, the largest Gulf Coast container port handling 73% of U.S. Gulf and container, and of course we know that we are number 1 in foreign tonnage. We are moving as much as we can. We need all of you working together. It is about unity. It's about hanging on, building this port as the economic engine, not for this region, but for the United States of America. That's what our goal should be. So to have a good partner is to have one in Secretary Pete. He is a family man, husband, 2 wonderful children, and a dog. And he smiles when I say a dog. But very briefly, he came in with a mission, having been the mayor of a great city in Indiana, having served a good 7 years, I believe, or more in the United States Naval Reserve, going on to Afghanistan. Thank him for his service. Somewhat of a thinker, graduating from Harvard and a Rhodes Scholar, so I guess Clyde has worked a little bit and done his homework. But as well, he has been focused on mobility. His goals have been safety, jobs, equity, climate, and innovation. I like his work in dealing with the issue of cutting in half long-dwelling container congestion in America's ports. He is not an idle secretary. He goes to places throughout this nation, small, urban, large ports, airports, just provided a continuing large amount of money in the airport system, Bush Airport in particular, which I represent, and was a champion during the COVID-19 fight in providing resources to keep us above the water and to work with all of those transit workers. He's brought down death on our highways. He never stops thinking and never stops working. So I just simply want to say a big thank you to you, a big thank you to you for realizing that America's economic engine are in the American people and the work they do. And mobility is a major part of both our survival and our future. Thank you so very much, Mr. Secretary. It is my privilege and pleasure to bring forward the Secretary of Transportation, United States Department of Transportation, Secretary Pete Buttigieg. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much, Congresswoman.
Congresswoman Jackson Lee, it is always a pleasure and an honor to work with you. I have known and admired the Congressman long before we actually met and long before I was doing this work. And I was reflecting, I think between the visits we've done together here at the airport, high school, I think we've done trains, planes, and automobiles now together, and there's more where that came from. And so thankful for your leadership. Representative Sylvia Garcia, another steadfast partner to this administration in transforming America's infrastructure. And I believe her when she says she has that list she's going to give you, because also a relentless advocate for this region and for this district. And remember, we would not be here with so much good news to celebrate if it were not for that infrastructure legislation and funding that both of these members and so many others have voted to make possible and have partnered with President Biden to make possible. So thank you for putting us in this position. And a big happy birthday to the United States Coast Guard. I should have brought a cake, but I couldn't figure out how to get it into the overhead bin on the plane this morning, so hopefully $160 million will have to do as a way to celebrate the good work going on here. But you all may be part of the Department of Homeland Security now, but the DOT continues to feel a deep kinship with the Coast Guard and a great appreciation for what you do to secure this country and its waterways. I want to thank my colleague, Administrator Admiral Ann Phillips, for the great work that she and the entire Maritime team have done. They have had more put on their plate in just a few years than I think it's safe to say decades before that, and they have risen to the challenge magnificently. And to everybody from the board who's welcomed us here today, Chairman Rick Campo, Director Roger Gunther, the commissioners, the whole team who are here, not to mention the local and state officials who take such good care of this asset. I want to thank you for all of the terrific work here. I want to recognize the construction workers who are the reason we're in a position to cut a ribbon today, to get this project done, including under some of the toughest circumstances like extreme weather and like the COVID pandemic. I want to thank Alan Robb and the International Longshoremen Association. It's been said, but it can't be said enough, how much we have counted on port workers who can't exactly come to work on Zoom and who got the job done day in, day out, hot, cold, COVID. We have counted on you, and thank you. And I want to pause for just a second to talk about the progress that we have made just in that short amount of time. When President Biden first took office, the pandemic had put enormous strain on our supply chain. We were paying more, we were waiting longer. At one point we had about 100 ships bearing down on those West Coast ports. News media were saying that Christmas was going to be canceled. But it wasn't. Something else happened instead. This country stepped up, this administration stepped up, port workers stepped up. We brought together players from across the supply chain to address many of the biggest disruptions. And so that very same holiday season that they said was going to be a disaster wound up being an all-time record high in the movement of cargo through America's ports. That is a testament to the hard-working people involved in moving our goods around the world. Our ports moved record cargo in 2021 and 2022. Pacific shipping rates are down 90% from their peak. Inflation is down 2/3 from last year, and I believe a big part of that is the reduction in shipping costs. And our continued work on supply chain is helping us grow and be more resilient against the disruptions of the future. We got some great examples of that here at Port Houston. I don't know about you, but whenever I see one of those ships go by in the containers, I always try to imagine what's in them. What's in there? Is it stuffed animals that my kids are going to be playing with one day? Is it faucets that I'm going to use as the kitchen sink to get clean, safe drinking water? Everything that we count on, this blue-side podium, that speaker there, television somebody's going to use to watch this event. Pretty good chance it came through one or more of America's ports. And Houston, Port Houston, and the activity that goes on here is a key engine of American economic prosperity.
The last meeting I had before this, yesterday in our office, was with the Prime Minister of Mongolia, who is here to visit the Vice President and also to execute an open skies trade agreement, an aviation agreement between our two countries. Very proud of it. One of the things he reminded me of as we sat and met was the challenges that that country faces as a landlocked, developing country. And it reminded me that we should never take for granted that among the great blessings that make America are the access to these extraordinary shorelines and ports and the prosperity that that drives. But having the shoreline alone isn't enough. About 100 years ago, there was just a shallow, swampy channel between Galveston Bay and Houston that severely limited the potential of trade in India. And what happened next was a partnership, like the partnership we see here between the federal government and local communities. That's how they built the 50-mile Houston Ship Channel that connected Houston to the Bay, to the Gulf of Mexico, and to the rest of the world. And that undertaking helped enable generations of economic growth, and today that channel supports over 1.5 million jobs in the state of Texas alone. A former chairman of the court said that Houston, in his words, Houston is truly the town that built a port, that built a city. And I think that's a great way to think about that impact. It's a community that doesn't just sit around with what it already has. You had the vision with this project to expand the capacity and speed of what has already become the 5th largest container port in this great country. And that is why the U.S. Department of Transportation was so proud to support this project with $21.8 million, and we bring our heartfelt congratulations to everybody who helped deliver on that and actually get it done. We're delighted to celebrate this with us. So what does that add up to? Today we are cutting the ribbon on 1,000 additional feet of Wharf 6 and a new rail for cranes to operate along this newly developed space. It means more goods will move more quickly, more affordably through Port Houston, keeping prices down and keeping products moving smoothly. And that's only getting more important right now because American manufacturing is ramping up. Over 800,000 manufacturing jobs have been created since President Biden took office. It has been 40 years since we've had this scale of new manufacturing plants under construction, and we're going to need great ports to sell these fantastic American-made products around the world. As the President often said, it is time to be importing jobs and exporting goods instead of the other way around, and that's exactly what we're doing this time. Now, this wharf expansion was in the works before I got here, just to be clear. It is something that the department has been proud to support across the country. But also now, because of President Biden's infrastructure law, and because of the support from members like those who are here today, we have more where that came from. $18 million that we awarded to help develop another 39-acre space at this very Bayport terminal, and the $142 million that the Biden-Harris administration is investing to help widen and deepen that Houston Ship Channel that's such an important part of the future. Matter of fact, across the country, we have 37,000 projects underway benefiting from funding from that bipartisan infrastructure law. And even though we got this nice air conditioning here, I will spare you the list of all 37,000. But I want to mention just a few from around the area. I had a chance to see in Port Arthur, Texas, at a facility that's a little bit smaller than this one, but very important to the region and to the community there. We're redeveloping unused space to allow that port to handle more cargo. It's going to mean less truck pollution in a community with high cancer rates, and it's going to mean economic growth. In Caldwell County, we're constructing a new truck parking facility. We know how much we count on those truck drivers who get goods in and out. They count on parking, and when you have better parking, truck drivers have a safer place to rest, and we can even prevent crashes. And in Houston, we're helping to purchase new, clean, natural gas and electric buses that are going to improve transit and health for residents. We're revitalizing 2.8 miles of telephone road, implementing a flood warning system, and more. Now, those projects are underway, so their funding is safe, but I would be remiss if I did not mention that right now, as we speak, there are voices in the United States Congress making the case to cut infrastructure funding and reverse some of the progress that we have made. I believe this is not the time to slash funding for ports or any other transportation infrastructure, especially because that funding in its original bill was passed on a bipartisan basis. Our administration is fighting those cuts because we are just 2 years into this work, this infrastructure decade that Americans have waited a long time for. And we're not going to shortchange communities that need those investments. As you have heard from the leaders who spoke here, the vision is to go even further, even faster, and do even more, not less. And that's exactly what we're focused on in this administration right now. Again, this is a port that is part of the story, as the prior chairman put it, the town that built the port, that built the city. What we know is that when we invest in the right kind of infrastructure, whether it's roads and bridges, ports and airports, transit and rail, communities reach their highest economic potential. Businesses do what they do best, and our whole country grows with good-paying jobs. America has that extraordinary ambition, the same kind of ambition that made it possible to build this ship channel in the first place. And we are showing that we can work together across jurisdictions, across party lines to deliver and get things done. And keep your eyes out, because there will be many, many more ribbon cuttings for great infrastructure here and across Texas and around the country. And we're just getting started. Now, just briefly, I know we have some Spanish language media covering the event, so I'll offer a short Spanish language summary for them to take. El Departamento de Transporte de Estados Unidos se enorgullece en apoyar este proyecto con 20.8 millones y agradecemos a todos los que trabajaron arduamente para llevar a cabo este proyecto. Felicidades por Cristo. La expansión de este puerto ayudará a que el transporte de bienes y servicios sea más rápida y más económica. Y cosas como esta están pasando por todas partes. A través de la ley de infraestructura bipartidista del presidente Biden, otorgamos 18 millones para el desarrollo y mejoramiento de 39 acres en esta misma terminal, además de los 142 millones que la administración de Biden está invirtiendo para ayudar y ampliar y profundizar el canal de navegación de Houston. En todo el país tenemos 37,000 proyectos en marcha. Again, I'm so proud to be with you. It's great to do the award announcements, it's great to do the groundbreakings, but there's nothing like a ribbon cutting that signifies the successful completion of the project. So congratulations to everyone who made this a reality. Let's make it official. Thank you.
Thank you again. Thank you, Secretary Buttigieg, and thank you all. This is all of our port. Appreciate everybody's contribution. I'm going to ask the elected officials on this front row or two to come up and be a part of this ribbon cutting. But thank you all for celebrating this historic event with us. So thank you very much.
Down in front. Everyone else sit down. Guys, everyone needs to go down.